All right. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to My Kingdom is Not of This World. Today, it's great, wonderful. I'm happy to meet with you today on this Sunday, the 8th of March, 2026. Wow. You just never know. So I'm really happy to meet you here. Today there's an inventory happening, an inventory of your spiritual storehouse. So we're going to check what is in there, and that might be quite overwhelming. So that's really lovely. And we look at this in different ways, of course, today with a meditation, and Joel is speaking to us in this spiritual storehouse, a tape in from probably 1963 or 4. It's like I basically chose all the newest tapes of him in this series, since it is a delight to hear him speak this freely as he does here. That's really wonderful. Like very matured in his way of say bringing this to you, and literally like giving that to you, and that's just very lovely. You'll see when we listen to the meditation too, by the way, and to the tape. Yeah, the meditation is wonderful. It's a confirmation of what is in your spiritual storehouse, and so we look at in the preparation for listening to the video also to this what we meditate on in the meditation. In other words, the same text, I will look at expressions that are mentioned because it is so fundamental and so compact in its expression that it's really great to stand still with what is actually being shared. And of course you do that first in your meditation, but then also we take time to take another look at it. Basically, we come here together. It's like this is our sanctuary for a moment, and I mean that seriously. It's like this is a sanctuary where we come together. This is, of course, happening in you. This is not a place really, but it's like a sanctuary where you are basically invited to a remembrance of the truth of you. And like I said, I mentioned the date today, the 8th of March in 2026. Like there seems to be so much going on in the world, and so much confusion and attack and murder and all these things. Not to make any of that real, but at the same time, it's like a refuge is good, and sanctuary is wonderful, because to come to remembrance of your holiness, of that what is sanctified within you, what you can never lose, what is your security and comfort, is in times like this like really important. Always important, but now it might be that you feel an increased urgency for quiet, for peace, for moments of silence, and you should respect that, because in that sense you use the world for what it's meant to be. Basically, it's a place to remember your freedom, to remember that freedom can only be found in you. It cannot be attacked, it cannot be conquered, it cannot be anything like that. And that's a revolutionary expression that I give here. Not any other than Jesus of Nazareth always has been teaching or sharing with you. And that is like, it is, my kingdom is not of this world. Literally, this is our world work. In fact, we do our world work here. My kingdom is not of this world. That's a statement that will keep you busy for a while, because everything seems to have to be involved in worldly things. And here we are coming together in our, what I call our sanctuary, remembering that my kingdom is not of this world. And at the same time, we bring in, we basically are doing an inventory of what is in our spiritual storehouse, inviting that, maybe just hearing about it for starters, but then wanting to know what it actually is and wanting to experience that. The I that I am is the Christ ministry. The I that I am, and the ministry is like, this is my essence, this is the truth of who I am, and that's not a concept, that is literally my beingness, my isness is even a better word. This word that came to me very strong this weekend is like isness. Isness has no other thing than what it is. Like beingness is, you can come to a beingness, something can be something, so that, but isness is just what it is. So that's very complete and whole. And I love the idea of isness. So that's really the I-ness just as well. It's like, that's I. And if it still needs a description, it cannot be true. So it's like, it's not about the word. It is not about your understanding, but it's about you inviting yourself to come to the place where that can be remembered. Now this is where the work comes in, the inner work. The inner work, inspiration, is right here. And it is taking time, in fact, to allow the world to bring you of yourself. Basically, you're doing it yourself, but in fact to come into your devastation, to come into the place where you see, like, I don't want anything to do with this world in that sense. I'm not looking for anything in this world. And basically, that is in the first instance, and sometime after that too, that can be a great devastation. Because basically your whole mindset is directed towards finding something here, looking for something here, looking for safety here, looking for enjoyment, for satisfaction, for safety, for security, with all the ways that are being taught by the world, exposed by the world, brought into your attention with full force, with full lies, with full delusion, because it doesn't know the truth. It cannot speak the truth, because the truth is true. It is the isness of I. It is just what it is. Now, to take time during the week to watch this, or to listen to the meditation, for instance, one more time, or to sit still and let this world devastate you in that sense. It doesn't need much, I guess, at this point. Like, it is very devastating to see that something that you really hoped for was bringing you something fails completely, or fails at least temporarily, intensely. So, that's why it's like, actually you should stay right there. This is the world. You should stay there in terms of how you see the world. You can stay in your devastation, because as soon as you start to enjoy yourself here, in a certain sense, it is you start to make compromises. You start to live a lie. Now this is basically returning back to my kingdom is not of this world, is your entrance into heaven, is your entrance into what is real and what will last forever, what can never change. It is your spiritual storehouse that you enter right into. So this is, it's huge. It's huge. It's huge in the sense of there's a lot to learn, and specifically in this point in time, and it will increase too. Like, of course, like, it will be returning back to yourself, because if the lesson isn't learned, you will you will come to the same place again, giving up your hope of a better world, giving up your hope of world peace. Not that there cannot be world peace, but that would start here within you, and you don't expect it from a world, because the world is nothing by itself. My kingdom is not of this world. My kingdom is what I am. It's what is within me, that what is truly the extension that can go out into the world, but that's all. And so this is really important to have this clear, specifically in this time that we seem to find ourselves in. So I want to start with the meditation. It's a very powerful and beautiful, gentle meditation with Joel. Joel is speaking to us. It's coming from this specific tape, 541B, and it is the spiritual storehouse, but I took 3 minutes out of it, which is really like a declaration of your isness.
The day will come when you will recognize that you do have the teacher within you. And we are only in that transitional stage now, where we need teachers and practitioners to reveal that we do not need teachers and practitioners. You see, eventually there will be an experience in your life, as there was in mine, when the nature of the word I reveals itself to you. And that is when you will be at home in God. When you realize the nature, the meaning of that word I. And you then see why the Master built his entire ministry on that one word. That's all there is, to the Christ ministry. Before Abraham was, I am with you, I will be with you unto the end of the world. I am the bread and the meat and the wine and the water. I am life eternal. I and my Father are one. I. This is the whole of the Master's ministry, revealing to you that the I that I am is the I that thou art. And that I is really the presence of the Christ, the Spirit of God within you. And that same I that spoke through the lips of Jesus is speaking through my lips and will speak ultimately through every one of your lips. And it will say to you, haven't you known I have been with you since before you were born? I will be with you after you leave this plane. I will never leave you nor forsake you. I am in thee, and thou art in me, for we are one. That voice will speak to you, and you will know, you'll know what Moses experienced. I am that I am. I am that I am. I am that I am. The very one that you think is up in heaven, I am he. That I in the midst of me, which is the I in the midst of you. And that I is the presence of God, and you have access to it, and to its healing, and its supplying, and its grace, and its companionship through your own consciousness, through meditation, through contemplation, through an inner communion within your own being.
So let's be still with this for a moment. All right, so this is the part that we're going to stand still with. Also in the in-between time before we start listening to Joel. Now here's the thing, it's like when you hear Joel talk, he just gives you an overview of that. like it is said in 3 minutes, this expression, and it entails everything that has to do with the reality of you. This is amazing. And that's why it takes time to hear it, what it says. And you can sit still with it, and it's absolutely important to do so and allow, in fact, that to affect you. Now, how is that going? I mean, that's what this is about. How is it going? Are you being affected by what you hear? Does this have an effect on you in the sense that you recognize your source and for moments catch glimpses of it, and that make you incredibly happy just to feel the confirmation that it's there? Like that is what is happening in your consciousness. So your consciousness is the storehouse, really. And like if it isn't, if it is not in your awareness, you can hear it, but it will do nothing to you in the sense of having an effect on how you feel about yourself. And so, in other words, you're still contracted in your world if you don't hear this. Now there's no pressure that I put on you here, but there's a real deep invitation to allow this to affect you. That's why we take time today to really take a look at it, to magnify some of the expressions in there. Like, oh yeah, let's not forget to take a look at this. You don't want to miss this, because there are some expressions that you really want to take another look at and really stand still with. So I hope you join me in that with what I'm going to share in a moment. Now the full picture in the process, because that's what we're still talking about. Joel says, if basically I'm telling you that practitioners and teachers are here until they're not necessary anymore. It's like you will be one until it's over, until that's not necessary anymore. So this is also something that comes to you. You cannot believe that. Maybe you do believe it. Maybe you already got into some kind of recognition of that and start to teach this or start to express this in some kind of way. But here it is, like the most fundamental part of this so-called ministry is the realization of the isness of it. In other words, it has not necessarily to do with doing, but it has to do with isness. Like, this is it. This is what I am. I am what I am. It's all about the I. The whole ministry is about the I. Not that the I needs to do things. No, it is a light, it is a beacon, it's an anchor. And it literally brings you right into your essence. And if you can hold it there by releasing it, by releasing every idea you have about it, by just allowing that to be, but still realizing it at the same time, then that radiates throughout the universe and throughout this world. What do you do for it? Are you going on the barricade to prophesize this, or are you going to run out into the streets to teach this? No, it has nothing to do with that. You literally come in realizing this, you come to the place where you recognize this is just about me staying right here in my practice, in my sanctuary of I-ness, extending what I am by not disrupting it with any other thing that I suddenly think is so necessary, or that I give so much value, or that needs my attention in the sense of it distracts me from staying centered in my I-ness. So this is something that you need to develop, so to speak, and it's kind of an integration that takes place within you and be aligned. And wherever you find yourself, that's not going to be disturbed, because you don't let it disturb anymore. So the training really is, and this is the ministry, you could call it. This is the inner work, inspiration. I want to use that word. So it's like the inner work, inspiration is really to release all the distractions, all the temporary values, at least for a moment, and maybe for longer. Maybe you'll allow a change in your life that you didn't expect you to do. That can happen. So in other words, there's a lot to develop in the sense of undevelop, unrelease, undoing, letting it go of things that were so important before. But now you recognize when it doesn't start with the peace within myself, it has no value to me. It doesn't attract me to pull myself into anything. So it needs to be like, it will be guided, it will be inspired by a spirit within me, because he's doing the talking here. He's doing the managing of where I'm supposed to go and what am I supposed to say and who am I supposed to meet. It's like that's all out of my hands. It is all included in the staying centered in my isness. And that the ministry is, I speak from my own experience, the ministry is really like trusting that, despite anything that the world tells you. So that is quite something. Like I've been practicing this for a while. And it's great because you get more and more and more to convert, literally to convert back into your isness. First it seems to pull you out, but then it comes back because you realize, no, there's nothing but this. This is my kingdom, is not of this world. I've temporarily got really involved into something, but now I'm returning back to this. I'm allowing to feel everything that is occurring, but I'm returning back to my isness, to my center, to the love that I am, to allowing God to love me. Because if I get distracted into this world, if I get distracted into the news that seem to be so important, or the threats that are coming at me, if I lose myself in that, that's perfectly all right too. I can always come back, but here I am. I come back to my isness instead. I say like, okay, for a moment, yes, I take a look at it. And now I'm coming back. I'm converting literally a whole world. And all the importance of this one moment of reflection that I got, realizing it's mesmerism. It has no reality. Now I'll allow a change to occur by bringing that all back into my storehouse. Bring all of that back to the light, to the love that I am. That's what's going on. That is my practice. This is what I demonstrate as a teacher, practitioner, all the time. So it's like, that is your invitation. If you do this by practicing this, it's just like I express it here and demonstrate it here, then you go your own way and do this. You do this, you extend this. And you get all the support, and you recognize, yes, indeed, that's right. It all depended on me, literally, it all depended on me. Not that I was important in the world, no. It depended on me not denying my isness any longer. So here we go. This is always what we come back to. This is my only reality. My kingdom is not of this world. I am that I am. And I cannot be something else too. As simple as that. Okay, so Joel says it, as you have heard in the meditation, Joel said it very specifically too. So that's why I love to share that with you too at this point. Access to all. I mean with that. Access to all means to your whole spiritual storehouse. You have full access, and you will hear some attributes of that. Healing, wholeness, abundance, all of it, of course. Like God's isness is total, is complete, is whole, is perfect. So you have access to all by releasing your Yeah, your investment in this world, by your investments in who you think you are, or what you think you need. Well, here's my point that I just made of Joel's point that I just repeated. The day will come that you recognize that you do have the teacher within you. Like it is all within you. It all came down to you. Literally, this is all about you. And we are only in that transitional stage now where we need teachers and practitioners to reveal that we do not need teachers and practitioners. So a dependency on a teacher or a practitioner can only be temporary. And you will have to recognize, basically you have to stand on your own feet in the recognition of your I-ness. So you see, eventually there will be an experience in your life, as there was in mine, when the nature of the word I reveals itself to you. Yeah, so the word I'll come back to that. I expressed this before, and we did a whole series with the mystical I too. And that's where that came up too. Like the I, you could think of what you are used to is like a melody, or with waves and frequencies and all this. It's like it's a beautiful rhythm and all this. But then the I is basically an extension of these waves with an infinite amplitude. It's like suddenly you're shifted into a timelessness. The I is a timeless experience, an out-of-time experience. It's a four-dimensional experience. Literally as if it would be a wave that suddenly, instead of turning back into itself, it expands forever. It just starts to go down and up at the same time and extend into infinity. This is the I. Now this is an abstract expression of it. And see, it's not in the words, but you get the idea. Like imagine that there's something, you're accustomed to buildings, they have a ceiling. Suddenly here's a building without a ceiling. It's endlessly going up and doesn't seem to go. It doesn't seem to stop. And when you look down, you see the same thing. It's like it doesn't seem to stop. So this is where the opposites are coming together, where you recognize yourself as being a total part of both of it. It is one. Yeah, that's why I stopped now explaining it. It's not really explainable, but you get the idea. It's like it's an infinite amplitude. It doesn't stop. It just keeps going. This is creation. It is endless. There's always more, and there's always deeper, and there's always higher. And this is where you find yourself. This is the truth of you. This is the reality of you. It doesn't have to do with definitions any longer, or levels or anything. It's like, no, this is extending forever. This is, yeah. I always try to express it with metaphors. What else can I do? Oh, I can make stories too, of course, like Jesus did. So, continuing with the next expression. I will be with you unto the end of the world. Here you go. I am the bread, the meat, and the wine, and the water. I am life eternal. I and my Father are one. I. Yeah, the I ministry, like the Master's ministry. So I will be with you until the end of the world. Now here, I come out of this for a second too, because my kingdom is not of this world. In the moment that I release every idea I hold about the world, where is the world? Like, it's gone. So when I come into the transition period, as I find myself in now, the transition period where I still make things real of this world and then come to release it again, in that moment of release, I'm set free of this world. Literally, I recognize my kingdom is not of this world, and the world is gone. And here comes back an idea I hold about the world. Now I find myself back into the world and relate to it in a certain sense. I relate to it temporarily, No? This is what I just expressed too. Temporarily I relate to the world, but only to come back to a conversion of all these ideas into the I-ness of me. And gone is the world again. So this is really the preparation, as you can understand, for the resurrection, for ascension eventually. It's like first the resurrection. When your world is gone, where are you? Well, you're still here, but it's different. When I make one idea real here in this world and I come to the undoing of it, I allow conversion to take place back to my isness, to the center of my being, to my I-ness, and experience the infinite amplitude. I'm gone out of time again. So this is the integration that takes place into your experience. Whether you have that awareness right now or not, you'll start to recognize more and more of it. Believe me, this is nothing new. You will see. It will be so familiar to you, if it isn't already. So that is our ministry, basically, to support each other in not denying your isness and finding ways to help you release it by meditation, by contemplation. We'll see that in one of the next expressions. The I is really the presence of the Christ, the Spirit of God within you. And that same I that spoke through the lips of Jesus is speaking through my lips and will ultimately speak through everyone's lips. And it will say to you, haven't you known I've been with you since before you were born? Since before you were born, I was already there. Before Abram was, I am. Before Abram was, I am. I will be with you after you leave this plane, because this plane is disappearing all the time when I return back into my isness. I will never leave you nor forsake you. I am in thee and thou art in me, for we are one. Now these are incredibly comforting expressions. I will be with you after you leave this plane. I will never leave you nor forsake you. I am in thee and thou art in me, and for we are one. And it goes on. So it is that voice that will speak to you, and you will know that, you'll know what Moses experienced. I am that I am. I am that I am. The very one that you think is up in heaven. I am he, that I in the midst of me, which is the I in the midst of you. And that is the I. The I is the presence of God. In other words, this is the way that we know each other. Oh yeah, here's the expression with meditation. So you have access to it. You've access to all of it. And what is it? You've access to it and to its healing, its supplying, its grace, its companionship through your own consciousness, through meditation, through contemplation, through an inner communion within your own being. So this is also, my kingdom is not of this world. So the attributes that are part of where I have access to have nothing to do with this world. This is not about supplying the world. This is not about healing in the world. This is not about all of this companionship in the world. Like, you don't want to confuse that, because otherwise you keep circling around here in terms of still valuing what is occurring in this world as if that is something that you are waiting for. And this is basically only to realize where the source is of all of this, and being in communication with that. What could you possibly lack if you realize where you truly are? When you are, say, centered into your isness, when you are experiencing your oneness, who could you miss in that sense? Who could you miss? Like all of that is given in your isness, in the I that you are. So then you come to the point where it doesn't matter really what's happening in the world. Not that you're ignoring it, but since everything is in fact an invitation to convert it back into your isness, realizing where you truly abide, that is exactly the practice then. And that is the only thing that prevails, and the only thing that sustains, the thing that you go back to. Like if I saw this, and I see this many times, but if you would trust one idea that you have, that you come up with your mind, and realize this expression, like if I would tell you something on my own device, I would tell you a lie. Like I would not know what to tell you. Now here's the thing, you have an immediate tap on your shoulder if you do. This I realize for myself too. It's like I cannot but speak the truth. If I don't speak truth, like it literally comes as an inspiration, then I feel this tap on my shoulder. I literally don't believe what I say. I literally am aware of the fact that this is a lie I'm telling you. That spirit guidance is continuously with you. And you have adapted yourself to it and try to ignore the signals, but still it is there. So in other words, if you still have an idea about how the world should look, or what you bring into this world and what the effect of that should be, you're caught in that system of lies. In fact, you tell yourself a lie. And telling yourself a lie is one thing, but the trouble is that you're going to defend it, that you're going to hold on to it, because otherwise you would lose your face, you would lose your integrity, and that you have made up for yourself. Well, this is the humanhood. This is humanhood. Everyone recognizes this, because for a moment you were following everyone. You build up your idea about yourself in your puberty and young adulthood. You build up your certainty by coming up with opinions and with ideas like, this is how the world should look, I should vote that, I should listen to that, and this is a good news source, this is that. And all of this, it's like all of that is basically you looking for a storehouse for your ideas to secure your lies. And that's really something else. So you have invested in that. And now we're at the point where you recognize, no, this storehouse is not outside of me. No, this storehouse is within me. All these ideas, as long as I trust my mind's ideas, are basically a testimony of the lie that I live at that point. Now returning back, if I take that back to myself and recognize my isness, it can dissolve. Hence my Christ ministry. So that's really the practice. It is just as simple as that, but it takes a moment to integrate all of this. Because you're full of it. You're full of lies, so to speak, because you believe your ideas and you defend them. Oh well. So now we're coming back to our isness, and Joel is instructing us. So we're going to listen to Joel's tape, the Spiritual Storehouse. We start probably after 28 minutes and listen to the rest of the tape. It's just about a half an hour. So let's take time to do that and see you on the other side.
They've all been arranged for. Why? Because the still small voice spoke and said, stay home. And when it was ready, it said, get up and go. Twice it has said in plain English words, go to England. And I went, and there was a good reason for going on both of those occasions. You see, when the Master says, nevertheless, not my will be done, but thine, he's praying. Now, you may say, well, but he got a crucifixion out of it. Ah, but don't let your vision stop there. He also got a resurrection and an ascension. Wasn't the crucifixion worth the price as long as he got resurrection and ascension? Certainly, some of us get very tough experiences to go through when we give up our own will and when we give up reliance on yesterday's manna. We have a tough period of adjustment sometimes. But even if we go through crucifixion, please remember that we also have the experience of resurrection and ascension. And I can tell you that crucifixion is worthwhile, really worthwhile, for the sake of what does happen when the resurrection and the ascension take place. So it is that relinquishing our desires when we go into prayer is a very difficult thing to do because of dozens and dozens of generations of ancestry in which we have been drilled into going to God for what we need or want or desire and expecting God to prosper them. Now, this is an important part of the mystical experience. It doesn't mean that we cannot engage in right activities. I mean by that, I see the great hope always in youth, in the children. Perhaps we don't always fulfill the promise of our youth, but at least there is no use to looking to those who've gone beyond the middle mark to change this world very much. The real essence will have to come from children, those who are now children or those who will be children. And therefore, it is a part of my individual program, my personal program, to make contributions that will benefit children. YMCAs and WAs, or Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, or some of the children going, the youth going through the university that need some temporary help. It just so happens that that is one of the ways in which I engage in a human activity. In other words, I do believe that we should be in the world, not of it, but in it, and that part of our contribution must be on the human level. I don't think that in our spiritual part, in the spiritual years, that we should engage in crusades or lend ourselves to campaigns, because that is the work of those who have no other means. Their work is all right, but it won't be fruitful unless there is enough prayer work behind it to bring it to fruition. I think we can all agree that a horrible war was fought ostensibly for the freedom of the Negro. 4 horrible years of civil war that practically ruined the South and a great deal of the North. And I'm sure you know that it didn't accomplish its purpose, because we are now fighting the war all over again. The purpose that was to have been served then, we are trying to achieve now. So regardless of how dedicated the men and women were who died and suffered in that war, and who lost their fortunes and homes and health, it availed nothing. And it availed nothing because behind that war, behind that whole experience, there wasn't enough prayer of the right sort. Had there been, the result would have been achieved without a war. So it is today. A terrible war was fought from 1914 to 1919. Horrible war. But it achieved nothing because it had to be fought over with the same enemy years later. Then another horrible war was fought. That hasn't solved too much either. You see, crusades, wars, they must be experienced on the human level. It's the human's way of expressing himself. And there are some parts of it that we must help in, but not with ourselves. We must give ourselves to prayer. And what do we mean by prayer? Opening ourselves that that imprisoned splendor may escape. And then, if you want a crusade for a fund to build a hospital, or if you want a crusade to give the American Indian his freedom, or the American Negro his freedom, or the African Negro his freedom, let the others do the outside crusading while you bring the realization of God to the scene, and then whatever result is achieved will be permanent and will be good. Because no matter what they achieve, if they achieve it without God, it will not be good and it will not be permanent. You may build the most beautiful city in the world. It will only take one generation to make an ugly village out of it. Unless behind your building there has been the prayer, that is, the bringing of God into the human experience. And you only do that through the prayer of recognition. Thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God. Thou, the I within me, the Father within me. Thou, the presence of God within me. And I will open out a way for the imprisoned splendor to escape. How? By being still. Be still and know that I, the Father within, the Christ within, is God. And then let it perform its appointed work. Now, God's appointed work is freedom, bliss, harmony, wholeness, completeness. This we know by the Master's words. I am come that you might have life abundantly. I am come to feed the hungry. I am come to heal the sick. I am come to raise the dead. So the will of God for man is good. The will of God for man is harmony, wholeness, completeness, perfection. And that means freedom. Freedom and peace and joy. Now, how are we to have these? Only by admitting God. Not by taking up the sword, not by crusading, but by admitting God into the scene. When we admit God into the scene through our consciousness, then all those upon whom our consciousness rests are blessed, as we've seen with the illustration of practitioner and teacher. The moment you come into contact with a spiritually illumined person, the qualities of their consciousness begin to set you free from your false appetites, your sins, your diseases, your lacks, your limitations. Their consciousness becomes a law unto your experience. And so, as you close your eyes and admit the I stand at the door and knock. All right, Father, speak, thy servant heareth. Enter and take over. You are admitting God into this universe through your consciousness. Then those who come within range of your consciousness receive the benefit. Now, they do not have to be in your physical presence. This also I learned in my experience. In the early years of my practice, I had to set aside a period in the week for going out to call on patients who couldn't come out to the office. Eventually, that was taking a whole day, and then a whole night, and then a day and a half. And I could see that eventually I was not going to have any time in the office. I was just going to be out making house calls. And then the thought came to me, wherein do I differ from materia medica? If my physical presence is needed to heal, how can I call this spiritual healing or God healing? And gradually I stopped, and very, very soon I had no more calls to make. And I found they got just as well without my physical presence as with it. There was a practitioner here in Los Angeles who used to go away for weekends. Somebody asked him how he could do that. And his answer was, I don't know. My patients don't die between Saturday and Monday. This practitioner also was very busy, always, and his phone was constantly ringing. And a practitioner from out of town came to visit him, and he heard this phone ringing constantly, and the practitioner saying, I'll take care of it right away, I'll take care of it, and then the next one, I'll take care of it, just leave it with me, I'll take care of it. And this went on and on and on, but the practitioner never stopped to give a treatment. So this practitioner from out of town got frightened and left the office thinking something wrong must be going on, telephoned to me, invited me to lunch. You know so-and-so, I know that, yes. Well, listen to the experience I just had. Well, yes, that's right. Well, how can he do that? How can he do that? He didn't stop to give anybody a treatment. Oh, I said, he has a different kind of a practice. He doesn't have any sick people in his practice. Oh, that's how he does it. Well, you see, if you have no sick people in your practice, you don't have to go out and call on them. You don't have any physical thing to do. You don't have to be physically present to heal someone who doesn't need healing. When the actual healing consciousness is God. God is the consciousness of your individual being. Therefore, you have your healer right where you are. And even if you're going through the valley of the shadow of death, or even if you're making your bed in hell, you have your healer where you are. Because God constitutes your consciousness. And I am closer to you than breathing, nearer than hands and feet. So therefore, no one needs my physical presence. Now, the question comes up then, why do we have practitioners and why do we have teachers? And the answer is this. Until I learned that my physical presence wasn't necessary, I made calls. And therefore, I had to learn that my physical presence wasn't necessary to do the healing work. Well, in the same way, I know that teaching can be done through the silence. But until you know it, there will be the need of teachers and practitioners. Until the world knows that they do not need teachers and practitioners, that the kingdom of God is closer to them than breathing, they will need the teacher and practitioner to remind them of it. Therefore, the need for books, the need for teachers, the need for practitioners. In the end, it will not be necessary, because the kingdom of God is nigh unto you, closer than breathing, within you. And ultimately, each one of us must realize that in the moment that we recognize that there is an infinite invisible to which we have access through our own consciousness, when that happens, the day of practitioners and teachers will be past, and every man will be taught of God. Because every man will find his teacher. Well, you know, there is an old saying of India that when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And many people have said to me, how can that be? There are so few real spiritual teachers. Well, of course, what it really means is the teacher will appear within you. If there's no external teacher, you don't need one. The day will come when you will recognize that you do have the teacher within you. And we are only in that transitional stage now, where we need teachers and practitioners to reveal that we do not need teachers and practitioners. You see, eventually there will be an experience in your life, as there was in mine, when the nature of the word I reveals itself to you. And that is when you will be at home in God. When you realize the nature, the meaning of that word I. And you then see why the Master built his entire ministry on that one word. That's all there is, you know, to the Christ ministry. Before Abraham was, I am with you, I will be with you unto the end of the world. I am the bread and the meat and the wine and the water. I am life eternal. I and my Father are one. I. This is the whole of the Master's ministry, revealing to you that the I that I am is the I that thou art. And that I is really the presence of the Christ, the Spirit of God within you. And that same I that spoke through the lips of Jesus is speaking through my lips and will speak ultimately through every one of your lips. And it will say to you, haven't you known I have been with you since before you were born? I will be with you after you leave this plane. I will never leave you nor forsake you. I am in thee, and thou art in me, for we are one. That voice will speak to you, and you will know, you'll know what Moses experienced. I am that I am. I am that I am. I am that I am. The very one that you think is up in heaven, I am he. That I in the midst of me, which is the I in the midst of you. And that I is the presence of God, and you have access to it and to its healing and its supplying and its grace and its companionship through your own consciousness, through meditation, through contemplation, through an inner communion within your own being. And that is why it is lovely if we have a reading room, and if we haven't, there's always a church, a synagogue, a temple of some kind. And if there isn't, there must be a room in our own home or a seat in the park where we can commune with our inner self, the Christ within us, and let it flow into expression. Now, with this experience, life begins to change. You know, it doesn't always turn upside down overnight. In result, it does turn upside down within. But we don't always find that divine harmony instantly. It sometimes is a gradual change. But as it takes place, we learn something. And we learn that it is this spirit within that is creating our good without. It is this invisible that goes before us that is really creating. And then good begins to flow, and while it's flowing out from us to us, it appears to be flowing into us through others or from others. And so it is that eventually even these dollar bills seem to come in. Now, what we must remember is that these are but symbols of that inner grace, so that we do not become attached to these in the sense of fearing the lack of them or gloating over an abundance of them, because this is a lot of dead paper, and whether you like to realize it or not, it isn't worth a penny. It's only worth what you at the moment accept the government's word for, but of itself it hasn't got a penny behind it. Now, when this comes in, then don't believe for a minute that this is your supply, because it isn't. Your supply is the Christ, the Spirit of God that you have admitted, that you have contacted through your consciousness. That is your supply, and this is the product of it, or result of it. Therefore, you can do anything you want with this. Spend it, give it away, put some of it away in an investment if you like. Do anything you want with it, but don't worship it. Because no matter how much you pile up in storehouses, a little act of the government can wipe it out tomorrow. A little war can wipe it out tomorrow. So don't ever think for a moment that your salvation lies in this. Your salvation lies in that which you contact within your consciousness. Your consciousness is the door, the access to the Christ. And when you admit the Christ, it appears as form. When you get the form, be very careful that you don't start gloating about it. If you want to gloat, gloat about the fact that you have made contact within yourself to the mint, the storehouse of wealth, God's storehouse, because your consciousness is the storehouse of God, and all of God's riches and all of God's gift are stored up in your consciousness, waiting for you to let it flow. When it begins to flow, be sure you let it flow. Be sure you let those 12 baskets full flow out. Be sure that you share. Be sure that you give, and be sure that you learn the meaning of gratitude. Gratitude has nothing to do with the people you're grateful to. Gratitude has to do with yourself. Gratitude has nothing to do with God. Gratitude has to do with yourself. If you cannot feel a spirit of thank you in yourself, you're spiritually barren. Now, I don't care how healthy you are or how wealthy. If you cannot feel a thank you inside of yourself for something, for someone, if you cannot bubble with thank you, you're spiritually barren, and that's the sign of spiritual barrenness. The inability to feel thanks, the inability to feel gratitude, which is an inability to feel love. Because love is of God, and the fruit of love is givingness. For this reason, the Master has those long passages about, inasmuch as ye have done it unto the least of these my brethren, ye have done it unto me. Inasmuch as ye have not done it unto the least of these my brethren, ye have not done it unto me. And so, spiritual fruitfulness is always made manifest, always shown forth, where there is this feeling of love, which we call gratitude, thankfulness. For what? Well, that differs in the life of every individual. The more spiritual flow there is, the more things there are to be grateful for, and the more people there are to be grateful to, because you must remember this, that if you say that you love God but do not love your fellow man, you are a liar. Therefore, if you say you are grateful to God but you are not grateful to your neighbor, you are a liar. You only show forth your love and your gratitude in your dedication to your neighbor, friendly neighbor or enemy neighbor, relative neighbor or otherwise. So it is that you cannot manufacture a sense of gratitude. You cannot manufacture a thankfulness. You can pretend it, it's hypocrisy. You have to really feel it. And when you don't feel it, this is the sign that you must go within and realize that through your consciousness, you have access to the kingdom of God. And the minute the Spirit of God begins to flow in you, love and gratitude will flow in you. You cannot have love and gratitude separate and apart from God in you. You can have a human love and a human thankfulness, but it's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the gift of God. The gift of God is love and gratefulness and a thankful heart. Therefore, if you haven't these, you haven't God. Then turn within and realize that through your consciousness, through your own consciousness, you have access to God, to the gift of God, to the will of God, to the kingdom of God. And then get up and go about your business. And as you persist in this practice of the presence of God, eventually that Spirit will start to flow. And as it does, this love and this gratitude wells up in there, and it finds expression. You can't hold it back. Try to remember this. It's really true. If we had 1,000 billion of these, we couldn't destroy the poverty in the world. Because we have had 1,000 billion of these, and we've already given them. And it hasn't cured the poverty in the world. But if we have love one to another, if we have attained the presence of God within us, we'll all have abundance to share, to experience. We'll have an abundance not only of money, but the things that are greater than money, the gifts of God. But you will not attain the mystical life, you will not attain the spiritual life until you know that your own consciousness is the storehouse of God. God has stored up in your consciousness His gifts of harmony, peace, health, wholeness, and you must open out a way for that imprisoned splendor to escape. As you do, you'll be so filled with His presence that you'll find literally what is meant in Scripture by His blood. His blood is our blood. His life is our life. His spirit is our spirit. His staff is our staff. His bread is our bread. Because the gifts of God, which have been stored up in us from the beginning, are now let loose and are flowing. And then, whatever measure of peace is established in my consciousness, you feel. Not only being in my physical presence, but if you write me or cable me or even close your eyes and think Joel, my peace will descend upon you. And so when you attain your peace, anyone who thinks in your direction will feel that peace flow out from you to them, and with it harmony and health and abundance. Because whatever you have stored up in your consciousness, those who come to your consciousness receive. Because by then you don't have the power to withhold. Once you've realized that your consciousness is a storehouse of all of God's gifts, you don't want to withhold anymore. The more you spend, the more you have. Do you grasp the essence of our classwork tonight? That your consciousness is the storehouse in which you must find God's gifts and nowhere else? And that through your consciousness you have access to the infinity which is God, the infinite nature of God's wholeness and completeness and perfection, and only through your consciousness. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Joel, for your giving and letting it flow to us, and receiving that, treasuring that, letting that affect us deeply, and repeating that, like letting that come back to us as a reminder, continuously, every time that you think like, yes, this would be a moment to actually listen to that again. So this is important. Like, this is a great tape for that. Everything is put in it in order for you to realize it's all starting with me. My gratitude starts with me. If I don't feel grateful, there's something I'm not giving. Now, where do I start with giving? It is by first receiving for myself the love of God, the moment of communion with God, being still and allowing myself to be filled up, so to speak, be filled up with light and love. Now, naturally, out of me flows this light and love as an extension of my source that I'm connected with. And I'm grateful for that, for having that security, that safety within myself. So my gratitude has not even to do necessarily with something that comes to me or that I get, but it's basically recognizing my true nature is what brings me so much joy and happiness, that I feel incredible gratitude for the love of God, for God. And this love ignites again the passion for another experience of the love that I am. So this is becoming our practice, and it's an ecstatic, passionate practice of realization. So it's incomparable to anything in this world. So that is so lovely. So thank you so much for practicing that today with me, by listening to this, by sitting still, by allowing this to affect you. I hope to see you next week. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and play some music right now. And thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.